Hi guys, I'm just making a really quick video to show you some of the things that you're going to be working on in your next makeup day, which is next Monday, the 18th. So if you will just be following along with me, you can take your packet out. You'll notice that this time around, it's a little bit less. We only have math and we have language arts, but there's a little bit more involved. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my dot camera down so that you can see the packet itself, and then we're going to walk through some of those things together. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to be, first of all, doing some multiplication, and I want you to look on the second page. You'll notice on the second page that you have some multiplication pictures down here, and then you have a funny little puzzle looking thing up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to figure out the multiplication problems using partial products, or you could use the standard algorithm, which will also still be partial products. And then what you're going to want to do is write your answer down here. And as you get ready to work on the puzzle, you want to just carefully cut out one piece at a time. And that piece is going to fit into the little area that has the answer in it. Okay, so we are going to do one of these together. You'll notice on the other side of your paper, you have all the multiplication problems. These problems are the same problems that you'll see on the page with your puzzle pieces. You just want to make sure, we thought you might want a little bit more room for these. Okay, so we're going to start off doing our partial products. And just remember, we always need to multiply the ones times the ones and the tens. That's going to go on our first line. So this would be our 1 times ones and tens. And then on the second line is going to be our tens times our ones and our tens. So this would be our 10 times our ones and our tens. Okay, so let's take a look at how that's going to go. So we're going to first of all do what is 4 times 1. That would be 4. That's correct. We're going to write it down. So we've done our ones times our ones. Now we're going to do our ones times our tens. What is 4 times 110? That is going to be 4 as well. Okay, so we've done our ones times our ones times our tens. Now we're going to move over to our tens place value, and we're going to put a 0 here to move us over to that tens place. And then we're going to take our tens times our 1. So 7 tens times 1 is going to be 7 tens. And 7 tens times 110 is going to be 700s. And I'm going to go ahead and put my line under there and then add those together. And 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 7 is 11. And then 1 plus 7 is 8. So 814. So what you're going to look for then is I turn over my page and go back to the other page. And 11 times 74, I said that was 814. And so then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to very carefully cut out this piece. And I'm going to glue it up here in the space that says 814. And there should only be one way that it will fit. So you want to make sure that you glue it in the direction that it will fit. That's what you're going to do. Okay, when you finish answering all of these questions and you've got all of your answers here, make sure you're only cutting out one piece at a time. Because if you cut out all the pieces, they're all the same shape. You won't be able to tell. Cut out one piece at a time, glue it into the spot that has the correct answer by that problem. Okay, so let's do one more of these together. And go back over here. If it was me, I would probably just do this whole page by itself. So again, I'm going to think on my first line here is my ones times my ones and my tens. My second line is going to be my tens times my ones and my tens. Okay, so let's do it together. So we have 1 times 6 is going to equal 6. 1 times 5 will equal 5. So now I'm going to go over to my tens column. So I have to remember to come down here and put a 0 in. And then I'm going to do 110 times 6 and 110 times 5 tens. And then I'm going to add those together. And 6 plus 0 is 6. 5 plus 6 is 11. Good. And 1 plus 5 is 6. Circle my answer. And again, I'm going to go back to the other page, find that same problem, and put my answer underneath it. Okay. Once I have all those answers filled in on that page, then I'm going to carefully cut them out one at a time and glue them in the space that is provided. Okay, so that's all that you need to work on for math. We've been doing multiplication for a long time, so you should have it down. Just remember, if you end up with a number here as an answer that is not up here, then you've probably missed a step. So remember, in fact, it might be a good idea to write down at the bottom here, multiply the ones times ones, and then multiply the ones times the tens, and then we're going to multiply the tens times the ones, and then the tens times the tens. Don't forget that in between this, we're going to put a 0 to hold your place value. So remember that you're going to do that between when you multiply the ones and when you multiply that by the tens. Okay, so we've got those zeros, we've got them shown right here, and we've got them shown right here. Okay, so that's going to be your math work. It shouldn't take you terribly long to do it, and once you've got the picture all done, it'll give you some information a little bit. We'll have some information for you at school about what your picture shows. Okay, your next part that you're going to be working on is going to be your language arts. And we are going to start off by numbering our paragraphs. So remember, each time that it indents, that is a new paragraph. So this would be paragraph number 1. This one will be paragraph number 2. Paragraph number 3. We're going to turn our page over. And we're going to continue. We've got paragraph number 4. Paragraph number 5. Paragraph number 6. Paragraph number 7. And way down at the bottom of the page, paragraph number 8. Okay, so before we do anything else, let's go back and read our passage together. Remember that as you're reading along with me, you want to make sure that you are tracking. And we also want to look, because this passage, I'm going to move this camera a little bit so you can see the whole thing. This passage also has some really great graphics that we can look at that can help us understand things as well. So it's called From Power Plant to Light Bulb. Wow, I wonder what that's going to mean. I'm guessing it's going to tell us how the light actually gets to our light bulb. Let's see. You walk into your bedroom and flick on a light switch. A light bulb instantly glows overhead. How did electricity do that? It begins at a power plant where electricity is created. There are three main types of power plants. A hydroelectric power plant uses the energy of falling water to make electricity. Coal-fired and nuclear power plants use steam. At the hydroelectric power plant, the falling water spins a machine called a turbine. Next, the spinning turbine moves a coil of wire between magnets, which causes an electric current to flow through the coil of wire. Then this current leaves the power plant. So here's a picture of the power plant, the hydroelectric plant. And notice here, hydro, I'm going to have you just circle this little part right here. Hydro means water. So it's water powered. So you notice here that you have the water coming in and it falls down and it goes down through here, and you can follow the little arrows and it turns a little turbine. That's this little fan-like thing here, and that sends it on out. And then we've got our coil of wire here, and that goes up to this part here, and this is the transmission lines. And trans means that it moves it across. So trans means across, to move across. Move across. There we go. And that means it's taking it and it's moving the power across these lines to the towers, and the towers just keep taking it on and on until eventually it comes to our house. That's kind of neat. Okay, so here is our next page. We're going to flip it all the way over. And let's finish reading our article. It seems like this is pretty. There we go. The current passes through a piece of equipment called a transformer, which increases the current's power. This high-powered current travels through transmission lines that stretch long distances. Tall metal towers hold them up. So these tall towers here are holding up those transmission lines that carry the electricity from the power plants to the cities and town. When the transmission lines reach your town, the current passes through a substation where a transformer decreases the power. After that, the current flows through distribution lines strung between electric poles. So when something is distributed, that means it's being kind of passed out from place to place. So it brings it to your house. The distribution lines carry the electricity around town. From an electric pole in your neighborhood, a service line brings the current directly to your home. Next, the current passes through an electrical meter that measures how much electricity you use. Then, the current passes through a breaker box where switches called breakers can stop the current if there is a problem. I'll keep going on down. Wires leave the breaker box and bring the current to different places in your home. Because you just turned on a light switch, the current travels there. Then it travels to the light fixture and flows into the light bulb. But electricity doesn't end there. An electric current must make a complete loop. While the bulb glows, current is also flowing back out. It returns to the power plant. The current keeps traveling back and forth between the bulb and the power plant. You don't notice because it happens at the speed of light. Oh, that's really interesting to hear about all those different ways that the current goes through. So if you look at your next page, we've done these in class before, and this gives you a list of things that you are going to be looking for back in your article. Okay, and it's going to give you some things to do. Now, I know that you may not have a highlighter at home, but I also know that you were given a brand new box of crayons over Christmas. So you can use your crayons as your highlighter today and your pencil. And we'll make sure that there's a pencil in your packet for you. If you didn't return the last one, we'll make sure that you have one this time. Okay, so we are going to go back and look for some information. So the first thing that it wants us to do is put a star by each type of power plant mentioned. So we're going to look back through here. And it says back here that there are 3 main types of power plants. So that's 3 types of power plants mentioned, and we are going to put a star by each one of the 3 types mentioned. So it says there are 3 main types of power plants. The hydroelectric power plant, we're going to put a star by that. And then we have a coal-fired and a nuclear power plant. So we have 3 different kinds of plants: a hydroelectric power plant, a coal-fired plant, and nuclear power plant. So that's 3 different kinds. Okay, the next thing, I'm going to check that off, make sure that it's completed. The next thing, it says put a check mark besides each of the things a power plant may use to spin a turbine. And remember, the turbine is that little round area that looks like a fan a little bit. So here's our turbine. So 3 ways. It says at the hydroelectric power plant, the falling water spins a machine called a turbine. So falling water might be one of the ways that we could do it. And what did it say for us to do? Put a check mark. Oh, there we go. Let's put a check mark by that. Falling water is one way that causes it to turn. It says then the spinning turbine moves a coil of wire. So it looks like falling water, hydroelectric, is one way. And then it also says coal-fired and nuclear power plants use steam. So steam is another way. So the 2 things that it can use are water and steam. Okay, let's mark that off. Okay, so this is the part where we're going to use a highlighter. If we're going to just take a light yellow crayon, or even if you had like a light orange crayon, just something that's not too dark. And it says highlight information that describes how electricity is created at a hydroelectric power plant. So when we look back here at paragraph number 3, that's the one that talks about the hydroelectric power plant. And we are going to highlight information that tells how electricity is created at that plant. So it says, first of all, the falling water spins a machine called a turbine. Next, the spinning turbine moves a coil of wire between magnets. And that causes an electric current to flow through the coil of wire, and then the current leaves the power plant. Okay, so all of those things tell us how it is made. Okay, let's see what the next thing is. We're going to mark that one off. And it says underline the 2 ways in which a transformer changes an electric current's power. Okay, so let's look over here on our second page, and it says the current passes through a piece of equipment called a transformer, which increases the current's power. This high-powered current travels through transmission lines that stretch long distances. Tall metal towers hold them up. When the transmission lines reach your town, the current passes through a substation where a transformer decreases the power. So that's one thing that it does. We're underlining. The transformer decreases the power. Okay. After that, the current flows through distribution lines from there. So let's see. Oh, and up here in paragraph 4, it talks about the current passes through a piece of equipment called a transformer, which increases the current's power. So wow, when it's first leaving the plant, the transformer increases the current's power. But when it gets to the substation before it comes to our houses, the transformer decreases the power. So it sounds like it really changes it together back and forth. Wow, that's kind of neat. Okay, we are going to go ahead and underline that one as well. The next thing it says to do is circle different types of power lines through which electric current travels. Okay, so circle the different kinds of lines through which electric currents travel. So it looks like, let's see, we have the transmission lines. That would be one way. Okay, the current flows through distribution lines. And then it goes through an electric pole into a service line, and then it goes through an electrical meter, and then it goes through a breaker box. Phew! And that brings everything, and then that carries it through wires that leave the breaker box and carry it to different places. And then it travels to the light fixture from there. Wow. And then we have to remember that as it goes out, it also comes back. Okay, the next thing says to put brackets around the name of the equipment that stops electric current in case of a problem. Wow, let's see. The current passes through a breaker box called breakers, which can stop the current if there is a problem. Okay. Here's the next one. Now we need to draw a box around the sentences that describe how a light bulb is able to glow after you turn on a light switch. Wow. While the light bulb glows, current is also going back out. So that's going to go all the way from here. Because you just turned on the light switch, the current travels there, then it travels to the light fixture, flows into the light bulb, but electricity doesn't end there. An electric current must make a complete loop. While the bulb glows, current is also flowing back out. So it kind of keeps going back and forth until you turn the switch off again. Okay, 3 more things that it wants us to find. Draw a squiggly line under the sentence that tells exactly where electricity flows after it lights up a light bulb. So it is slowing back out. It returns to the power plant. Wow. Okay. Put an exclamation point beside the phrase that explains why you can't see electric current as it travels. Ooh, here it is right here. We've got a big exclamation point kind of already there. Make a really big fat one that says you don't notice because it happens at the speed of light. So very quick. And then if you have any sentences that you don't understand, go ahead and put a question mark by those sentences. Okay, so I know that's just kind of taking you quickly through the informational part, but then you are going to do the next 2 pages on your own. So as you are looking at the questions, make sure that you include a paragraph number, and we're going to use that paragraph symbol, the paragraph number, so that we know where you found that information. So include that paragraph number where you found it. And also make sure that as you are answering the short answers here, it says, what materials listed in the article can power plants use to create electricity? And you want to make sure that you start that next sentence with power plants use, and then you would list your 2 things, blank and blank, to create electricity. So make sure that you are restating the question and that you are writing in a complete sentence so that we are sure that you understand the question and the answer. Okay? Also, just notice on this very last question that it is according to the article. So this isn't something you're going to know from your own knowledge, but this should all be according to the article. Okay, your next page has to do with vocabulary, and you can look back into the article to see if you don't remember what these are. You can look back and see. It gives you the definitions right in the article, and you are just going to use one of these words in each one of these sentences. Please make sure that after you have written your word in, make sure that you've written it and copied it correctly so it's spelled correctly. And after you've done that, please make sure that you go back and reread your sentence to make sure that the word that you used makes sense in that sentence. So just take your time and do the best that you can on that, okay? You still have 2 more pages left to go with your language arts. And this first one talks about time order. And we've talked about that before, and we've called it the word chronological. So CHRONOLOGICAL. And remember that this little beginning part, chrono, has to do with time, and logic has to do with order. So it's basically just saying that it is time order in a way that shows time order. So a text that has time order structure presents the main idea and details in the order in which they happen. So I know we've talked about different types of text structure. We've talked about cause and effect and how something happens as a result of something else. In this case, we are telling something in the order in which it would make sense for it to happen. So as you read about this hydroelectric plant, it told you every step of the way how electricity was made, and it had to do it in the right order. Otherwise, the electricity wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to do it. So there are some signal words that we've talked about in class, and these are ones that you should be familiar with. We have then, last, next, finally, when, while, following, after, before, and first. Okay, and it says the authors use those words to give that time order structure. So when you look at the first paragraph in the article, it says, what does it suggest about electricity? Why is it mentioned at that point in the article? So when we look back at the article, that first paragraph, it says, what in the article, what does the first paragraph suggest about electricity? So we look all the way back to that very first paragraph. It says you walk into your bedroom and flick on a light switch. A light bulb instantly glows overhead. How did electricity do that? And then it talks about beginning at that power plant. Okay. So why do you think that they start with that particular part? You're going to answer that question. But notice that it's giving you first paragraph, third paragraph, and then two sentences that you're going to look for that have those signal words that you had up above here. So you're going to look for two sentences that use those. And then what is the major idea? So major is one of our academic vocabulary, and remember that means it's the main idea or the most important idea. And it says, what is the final major idea? Final meaning last, and why do you think that it's mentioned last? So you're just going to write some short answers for those. Okay, once you're done with this, you should know this article pretty well by now. And now you're going to switch into a little informational writing that you're going to do yourself. And notice up here it says explain. So you're not just going to tell, but you're going to explain the path electricity takes from where it's created to your home. Okay, so you can look back in the article, but you're going to explain from your own house, how does electricity get there? Okay, and you're going to include some descriptions of equipment, and those are some of the things they talked about, the turbine, the transmission lines, all those things. You're going to explain those and give details from the article to support that. And you should have a good 2 or 3 paragraphs on here. Just try to do as much as you can to explain it. Make sure that you keep it in the time order, in that chronological order, so that it makes sense. Okay. If you need some additional space, there is more space on the back of this page. There aren't lines there, but you could use those as well. So that is your makeup packet. I'm going to turn this back to me for just a minute. Get myself right set up. There we go. That's going to be your makeup packet for this second day. So just a reminder, spend some time on it. You don't have to do it all at one sitting. If you want to do a little bit each day for the long weekend that we have, you're welcome to do that. If you want to do it all on Monday, you're welcome to do that. But it is going to be due back on Wednesday of next week. And that is going to be Wednesday, February 17th. That's when it's going to be due back. So you'll be doing it on the 15th, and then it will be due back on the 17th. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me. I will not be doing a Google Meet this time. We didn't have too many people show up last time, so I'm not going to be doing one this time, but your parents can email me, and I will check and see if I've gotten any emails, and if I need to give you a call or contact you, I will. So do your very, very best work, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care.